ourselves into the race though, and we'll see what Jamie Fluke can do from pole position. The race begins, and we'll see what the Apex Racing team driver can do heading down to the first corner. It's a decent start for Fluke, as he's going to be able to hold off the charge of Maximilian Benneker into the first corner. Dara McCormack making a bit of contact with one of the RAGs, and now going very wide in the first corner, going to potentially lose out to his teammate. Luke Bennett comes through, but then firing it straight back comes McCormack.
Barging, bumping for everyone as Kuba Brzezinski makes his way down the inside of Luke Bennett as well into the Mercedes arena. Two Apex Racing Team cars inside the top 6 at the moment, I believe, with Kevin Ellis Jr. making it the first minute side-by-side in for 6th place between McCormack and Bennett.
Oh, that was a bit of a squeeze there from McCormack, a little bit too, you got to say Luke Bennett was kind of there. Of course, McCormack coming across just a touch. We'll have to wait and see on that one, but obviously it's opened the door for Brzezinski to potentially get his way through. They head down towards Dub for the first time in this race. The top 6 seems fairly settled, and of course Brzezinski will try and fight Bennett. Oh, Bennett right off the rear end.
Side by side as Warren tries to get involved now as well with Kuba Brzezinski. It's been a decent start from Porsche Quandra. They've at least not gone backwards, and in fact the bottom 4 have remained the same. But a few changes there. I do believe though that McCormack did squeeze Bennett possibly a little bit over the line on that run towards turns 5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say I think that was over the line. If a car's there, I know it's not really by much, but you can't squeeze out a car going into that zone, so we'll have to wait and see if there are any repercussions courtesy of that, whether race control stepping. You know, we've said before that they've stepped in a few times this season, including back in round 2 of the season at the Circuit of Spa-Francorchamps when they took the victory away from Maximilian Benneker. There is a look at Jakob Brzezinski, birthday boy Dane Warren directly behind, looking for a pathway through at the moment. Porsche Coanda not going anywhere in this race, still remaining in 9th and 10th.
Yeah, it's single file at the end of lap 1 then, and are the positions settled? That's the question. Kevin Ellis Jr. is looking pretty strong here, and Erhan Yoski has not got off to a great start. Ellis Jr. looks to the inside. This is almost already a bit more movement than we've seen in some of the knockout rounds yesterday. Yeah,
certainly so. Well, into that first sector they go then, and not really any opportunity for anyone to go for any moves. Do you force mistakes from people? How do you open the door? It is such a difficult circuit to go racing at the best of times. And on this occasion, it looks like it's going to be even just like super hard.
Yeah, I think it is good. I mean, we know from ESL R1 that Nürburgring is by far the hardest of the circuits to overtake on. But it was almost turned up to 11, if you like, last night in terms of the knockouts. We haven't seen that for quite some time. Now I think in the later rounds, in the semi-final and the final, I think we are going to see a little bit more movement. We are going to see a few more fights taking place out on the circuit. But even then, as you said yesterday, it's not as if they didn't want to overtake yesterday. It's just that there was just no possibility for it, really.
Yeah, it wasn't a matter of remaining patient and waiting for later in the race. It was a matter of it's just so hard to race around here, especially in this. We've spoken before about how the slipstream's been increased, but a little bit obviously this was rounds ago. We were talking about this, how it has more of an effect. I.e., if you're behind the car, you get more of an effect from it than you did when we went racing back in Katowice at the start of the year. But around here, you get in these trains, you're getting slipstream from the car ahead, who's getting slipstream from the car ahead, who's getting slipstream from the car ahead, you have no advantage to go for an inside move down at T1, for example. So you're kind of relying on mistakes. If there's one thing that we know about drivers at this level, Ewan, is they very rarely make mistakes.
Yeah, it's just a moment where they're not driving quite as quickly as the others, is where the opportunities arise, really, rather than actual mistakes. And Erhan Yoski is experiencing some of those right now. I think it's making Kevin Ellis Jr. a bit nervous, to be honest with you, because he keeps looking to the inside and then not going for it. Then McCormack closes and he gets to the outside, but he doesn't want to make a move because Luke Bennett's right there. And if McCormack's offline, then Bennett will try and take that place. There's some real top drivers on this little cut line for 6th and 7th place, like Luke Bennett in 7th place at the moment. He is surely going to have at least one attempt before the end of this one.
Well, putting it into perspective between McCormack and Bennett, those that are in 6th and 7th, both of them have victories in ESL R1 in finals. Of course, McCormack having 2 of those back in the spring season, and Bennett having a win around here in the spring season. And now he's going to send one down the inside. Door was left open from McCormack, and Luke Bennett is going to try and sneak his way through. This is the final transfer position between 2 of the drivers that made it into finalist mode back in the spring season major, and that is going to be straight back down the inside goes McCormack.
That was aggressive, but I would say within the lines of being legal, to be honest. That was a good move. That was just very late on the brakes. It's only going to rile up Luke Bennett more, and he's going to be looking to get that 6th place again. I think the top 5 are now clear. Was a little bit worried about Hanyoski early on in the race, to be honest with you, with the pace that he was showing, but now he should be fine. It's the McCormacks of this world who should be worried, because Luke Bennett will want to reply to that one.
Yeah, I've got to say, that is an unreal move. Honestly, up there with one of the best moves that I've seen in ESL R1. Just the boldness to actually give that one a go. And I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that Luke Bennett will give another one, will give a go in a retort at some point. These two, I've said it before, they're young drivers in the world of sim racing. You know, they've got a lot to give to the world of sim racing. They are the future superstars that we'll see right at the front of competitions for years to come. And we get to see them battling here for the final position in the final for today's race.
Yeah, this is amazing. You wouldn't have thought, to be honest, at the start that McCormack and Bennett would have been fighting for 6th place, maybe the win of this race, but certainly not 6th. We've had a bit of an upset at the front of the field. Having 2 Apex Racing Team cars inside the top 6 right now is a pleasant surprise for that team. Certainly in the Mercedes, it's Williams, the Mercedes team, who are struggling at the moment, despite their position 2nd in the team standings going into this round of the championship. It's quite a remarkable turn up here. Both Porsche Coanders outside the cut line at the moment as well. A few surprises in this first semi-final.
Yeah, and we won't see all 4 Mouses making their way through, unfortunately, but that is what it is. I mean, will we see Dara McCormack making his way through into that final? And you say, well, he's in 6th position at the moment. I still wonder if there might be a couple of notes from race control about that incident between McCormack and Bennett at turn 5 on the first lap, on the opening lap of proceedings, because the contact between them, I mean, like for me, like that's kind of over the line. Obviously, they'll take a look, a handful of the incidents from various angles, but yeah, I mean, we've seen it before where positions have been cost. I mean, we saw it from Maximilian Benneker in the first round of the season at Monza.
Exactly, and we've seen it with Maximilian Benneker in the final at Spa, and we've seen lots of incidents.
Any other Benneker ones we can throw out there?
So, I didn't want to bring it up really, but sorry. Yes, he's fine at the moment, is Max Benneker. He's got the fastest lap as well, by the way. But yeah, we know that race control will get involved if they have to, as Thomas Tattler makes his way through on Mitchell de Jong. Don't exactly know how that happened, but de Jong is down to 11th.
So we did get a note that Dara McCormack was told to give up 1 position. And I did think he went wide against Bennett earlier on in the race, and then fired it straight back through into the hairpin. Now, from a technical point of view, like that has absolutely been given up. That position has been surrendered, and then he's come straight back through. So if that is the note from race control after that incident, and there is confirmation of it, then in my mind, Ewan, I think we're all good.
I think so. I'm just remembering an F1 race about 15 years ago where that happened, and the driver in question got penalised for doing exactly what
you weren't alive to remember that.
I do remember that, actually. It's about the first memory I have of Formula 1. But anyway, it was yeah, very similar to what we just saw there. I think whatever happens, to be honest, in the stewards' room, this fight is not over anyway. McCormack is there with Bennett, and they're going to continue fighting right to the end. And those behind are going to try and get involved where they can as well. The only problem for the 7 of them is that there's only 1 spot available to them.
Also, I do want to say, I actually completely agree. If that 1 place grid penalty is the thing that we're talking about, that incident between McCormack where he squeezed Luke Bennett going into that section at the end of the first sector. If it's for that bit, I completely agree, because I like the fact that, for one, I think that was actually over the line. I think it was a penalty. There's a look at race control. But also, I like the fact that it's dealt with in the race. I like the fact that it's been like, right, give that up, let's sort this out, and now we can actually still talk about the fight. I like that it's been dealt with now. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's good to hear that, you know, that's been dealt with in the race and not post-race as well, which can be a bit frustrating to see on occasion. But yeah, it's dealt with now. The only problem for McCormack is that he's still got that pressure from Luke Bennett. Still a few laps to go in this one, of course. And of course, we know that the BMW does fall away slightly on tyres towards the end, so I do wonder whether Bennett needs to get this done pretty quickly. McCormack certainly doesn't think so. He's getting slow on the straight, and Bennett's going to look to the inside.
Unless he's been told that what he did to give up that position wasn't good enough. And so Luke Bennett has come through, and there was certainly a lift in there. There was absolutely a lift from Dara McCormack on Luke Bennett. So the position switch sees the 14 for Team Redline going to 6th place. And so that has now been reversed and puts Redline into position to go through into the final. And both Williams are now outside of it. Thankfully for McCormack, though, he surely won't get much fighting from behind from Brzezinski, and so can go fully focused on the attack for the race, for 6th place of the race. By the way, speaking of going on the attack, you said that Benneker had set the fastest lap of the race, and I do agree that I think Benneker's going to be looking for a race victory here. He wants to keep the streak alive. He wants to be sticking extra points onto his name. He wants another win.
Yeah, maybe. And he's got a couple of seconds behind him to be able to do that as well. But I think that will come at the end. You say that Brzezinski won't challenge McCormack here. Well, I do think that that's not necessarily going to happen, because if you remember on the way down towards the hairpin, when McCormack made that dive and that move back on Luke Bennett again, Brzezinski was actually looking up the inside of the Irishman at the time. So I'm not entirely sure that the Williams drivers aren't going to fight at all here. I do wonder what the team dynamic is going to be there. But for the moment, Williams will know that they've got both cars out of the top 6 at the moment, and Team Redline have got their one driver in there. Luke Bennett has overtaken McCormack, and he's put a half a second into him as well over this lap.
This has been a very impressive lap from Luke Bennett as he starts to pull away. 6th place. Oh, sorry, 6th place? Yeah, the battle's what we're looking at, but we've only got 2 laps to do with it. Lap 6 of 8. As we come across the line to start lap 7, just 2 more times to get around, and we'll see if the Irishman can work his way past Bennett. These two have fought time and time again, yes, for race victories, but even for the championship in the spring season. The 6th place is not where they expect it, it's not where we expect it, but it's where they are. They have to deal with it. There is no chance of dragging anyone like Kevin Ellis Jr. into the fight. As too deep into T1 once again. Dara McCormack just pushing it a little bit too hard in the first corner.
Yeah, way too hard into the first corner there. It does seem that the final sector and the first turn as well is where that Mercedes excels in relation to the BMW, because that's where McCormack gets closest. But let's not forget, this is the penultimate lap now. We're running out of time in this race, and if McCormack wants to go through, it's going to have to happen on this next lap. If he wants to do it at turn 1, then there's only one more chance.
Well, let's see if there is going to be the opportunity. I mean, you said about the infighting potentially in Williams. I definitely don't think there will be any. I think Brzezinski will settle for that 8th position. Will keep Dave Warren behind and will allow McCormack to have his full focus on trying to get through. But at the moment, that gap is far too large, 3/10 of a second. We're seeing the same gap though for the race lead. So if you kind of see this gap between McCormack and Bennett, that is the gap between Maximilian Benneker and Jamie Fluke. Fluke looking for what we believe was a first victory, and Benneker looking for yet another one. Just will it be 13 victories for Benneker?
It would be, yes, for Benneker, yeah, and they would overtake Chinchik as well in the list. So, yeah, it's an interesting situation here with the top 6. It's also interesting at the front of the field with Jamie Fluke versus Max Benneker still going on here as we edge towards that last lap.
Yeah, certainly so. You can see it on the left, the battle for the win, and everyone else fighting on. That's a bit of a tight line being taken from Dara McCormack as well. It's really nervy times inside both of these teams, and I mean, I'm liking what we're seeing here. I'm liking the pace that we're seeing, the potential that we're seeing. At the moment, who's going to take this victory? Who's going to be transferring into the final? Maximilian Benneker is closing in. He's going to look to the inside going out of the first corner, but Jamie Fluke sees him off, and Dara McCormack is certainly not close enough to get through on Luke Bennett.
No, not this time. It's going to have to happen into the final chicane realistically now for Dara McCormack. Did see Kevin Ellis Jr. having a look at Erhan Yoshkin towards turn 1 there, but nothing doing there either. I think Benneker's got a bigger chance of going through than McCormack has for the moment. That Audi is always pretty strong in towards the final chicane. We keep going back to that race in Munich, of course, race number 6, the famous race. Marcel Chinchik gave it one last go into the chicane. That's where he always got closest in that Audi as he was trying to overtake a Mercedes. We could see a similar situation for the lead in semi-final 1.
Yeah, it is very, very tight between all of this grouping. I do get the feeling that Benneker's going to take a look, but I don't think he's actually going to try anything too drastic into that final game. Might be a look to the outside and might be a commitment to the outside. You can see there in the bottom, that is what's happening at the race lead. Obviously, the battle for 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th is incredibly tight. It's going to, honestly, this is thrilling stuff between all of these, but just no one's able to make anything stick, Ewan.
No, not for the moment. Not even any attempts just for now either. Since we saw that exchange with Bennett and McCormack throughout that one, McCormack will, of course, be a little bit disappointed with his performance in this one, I think, and it looks like he will just miss out. What about Max Bedecker as they make their way towards the final chicane?
No way for Bedecker to make a move. Still quarter of a second between the pair of them. Jamie Fluke has driven this race to perfection. It was a shot pole position for Jamie Fluke, for the Apex Racing team. It's their first season in partnership with the official Mercedes AMG backing, and they'll come through the final corner and be a first win of the season for Jamie Fluke. Of course, we have seen the Apex Racing team victorious before in the hands of Kevin Ellis Jr. This is Jamie Fluke on top at the Nürburgring, bringing behind him Bedecker by a tight margin. And it's been an incredible drive from Jamie Fluke. Pieced it together perfectly, and the victory will go the way of the Northern Irishman. Lots of tears from the race. I'm sure some going from the Williams eSports camp. Darren McCormack will be one of those. Of course, it was a difficult race for him, finding himself outside of that